Hey everyone, James here with Paydirt. Wanted to go over some recent updates to the Portfolio Manager. We're going to look at the projections management as well as reoptimization. These are both kind of late swap oriented things. I guess the projections management is more broad. I'll talk about how it's used here in a second, but the reoptimization is absolutely more of a late swap oriented feature. I thought today would be a really good time to go over this video because we have a 2-game NFL slate that's going on right now with a pretty large break in between the 2 games and one late swap option or one late swap opportunities that could open up for a lot of equity. So let's go ahead and jump into it here. I am going to load up the secondary slate here for NFL. I'm going to go 48,000 in min salary used, and I'm just going to grab 100 lineups because what I want to show off is the idea of if you had a portfolio of lineups and wanted to late swap due to news later on, how would you do it? So we're just going to grab 100 lineups here from the secondary slate. So I'm just going to load everything from the Paydirt database. As usual, if you want to do user uploads, you can do that, but obviously as the owner of this site, I would like to just be using Paydirt stuff. And then I'm going to go over and look at the portfolio just to get a basic idea of where we're at. So overall, we have lineups here, right? Like this is just 100 optimals from the database. It's nothing super special, but say that we were in a situation where these were the 100 lineups that we uploaded onto DraftKings or FanDuel. And then after the Houston and Chargers game locked, we got news that Josh Jacobs was out for the game, right, for Green Bay, Baltimore. So what we would want to do for sure is get rid of our Josh Jacobs exposure. Now, what we could do, just like straight up, is say, all right, well, I want to get rid of all of my Josh Jacobs and set him to 0, and then do a straight swap to Emmanuel Wilson, right, his backup. And we could do that, right? Just from a very basic standpoint, we could do that. But what we'll end up with is now we have lineups where he got swapped out for Emmanuel Wilson. The median is dropped considerably and the salary is dropped. And, we have a whole bunch of kind of weird lineups that we don't know how they look like they should produce, right? So instead, what we can do, let's go over to the projections management, and I am going to make some adjustments here as if Josh Jacobs was out. So I'm going to go find Jacobs here. I'm going to adjust his projection down to 0.0. I'm going to update some things. I'm going to adjust his ownership to about 1%, which I think is probably fair. There's going to be some people who don't adjust him, and his captain ownership to 0.1%. And then I'm going to find his backup. I'm going to find Emmanuel Wilson, and we're going to adjust him. Let's say that I would then have him projected for 13.6, his ownership up to, let's say, 30.6% or something like that, and captain ownership, let's say 3%. Okay, so now that we have done that, when we go over and manage our portfolio, now what we can do is instead of having to go in and replace Josh Jacobs with Emmanuel Wilson, we can still do that. But what we can do instead is we can use lineup reoptimization. So what this is going to do is it's going to optimize any lineups. It's going to go through every row and reoptimize it based on the most recent projections. So this is, in this scenario, the Houston and Chargers game has already started. So we're going to say that those teams are locked, and that's going to make it so that any Houston or Chargers players can't be touched here. They can't be added, they can't be removed, anything like that. We're just going to be shifting around Baltimore and Green Bay players. So when I hit this, what we're going to see is in lineups where Josh Jacobs was there, or in lineups where, whoever was there, right? We are going to now be able to shift them out and get Emmanuel Wilson in and make any updates or upgrades that we want to be able to make around those players, right? It just so happens that Emmanuel Wilson with a projection of 13.6 projects higher than Derrick Henry, so you would end up replacing Derrick Henry with Emmanuel Wilson as well. But obviously you'd be replacing Josh Jacobs with Emmanuel Wilson and making any updates or upgrades or reoptimizing any of that kind of stuff. Remember, the top median for this 100 lineups was 105-ish. But when we reoptimize, we see that we now are going to have instances where Emmanuel Wilson gets slotted in for somebody like Christian Watson, and now we have a top projection of 108 or 109.26, right? And anywhere where there was a change in the lineups is going to be denoted by the player itself and a gold background. So we had swaps out of basically all of these lineups, right? But this is a super important feature in things like NBA, where we have lineup news that comes out later. We have projections constantly shifting. We'll have live projections starting next week so that you can re-optimize your lineups and find the best spots and the best edge based on the live projections. Super, super important thing to have. So if you just wanted to see what it looked like and you want to reset, you obviously just reset and load the base, and then come down here and make sure that you click this clear optimization highlighting. I'm probably going to get rid of this button and just make it so that happens when you reset the portfolio, but I digress. For the time being, you should probably clear the optimization highlighting. So that is two new features that we have, the lineup reoptimization and the projections management. One thing I will also note here is that you can optimize for ownership if you want to. So, if you're looking for less volatility in lineups or more volatility in lineups, optimizing for ownership can be a good thing. One of the things that I would say you can do with that, let's go ahead and load back to default here and say, all right, so I have my 100 lineups, and say, let's say like I only want to look at lineups where Jaden Higgins is in them. And in those lineups, like I know that he's really, really low owned. So for him, I'm going to say, all right, give me more ownership around that lineup. Like, can I get any more ownership? I can't? Okay, well then whatever. I don't really care that much about it. Let's go back to default. And then in lineups where, say, I have like Nico Collins, who has been doing badly on this slate, let's go ahead and just lock him. Oops. Try that again. Do I have 100% Nico Collins? There's no way I have 100% Nico Collins. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Wow, that's hilarious. I have 100% Nico Collins. Let's say in lineups where I have the Chargers. Let's try that. All right. Because the Chargers defense, let's just say the Chargers defense is doing really, really badly. In those lineups, I would want to say, all right, give me higher medians. So let's reset those. And then let's add all of those to the custom export. And then let's reset this back to default. And let's say in lineups where let's say in lineups where I do not have the Chargers defense, who's getting the shit kicked out of them, I want to optimize on ownership. And then let's add all of those to the custom export. So what I just did with that is I created two separate subsets. One where I was aiming to increase my upside because I had the Chargers and they're getting beat up, so I needed to re-optimize to find a higher ceiling. And then one where I optimized to lower my volatility, where I don't have the Chargers and I think that I have a leg up on the field, so I wanted to add ownership. And then we would go over here and look at the export base and say, okay, here are the lineups that I would then want to export. So that is a little bit about using the lineup reoptimization and the projections management. Obviously, I didn't get way into the weeds here. There are a lot of different things you could do, right? Like lineup reoptimization is going to be something that you can do on your subsets. It's going to be something that you can do on full portfolios. It's going to be something that you can do after trimming. It's going to be something you can do before trimming. Like there are a lot of things that you can do with it, but it's mostly a late swap oriented tool. I hope that you guys enjoy it. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, reach out to me in the Discord. If you have things you'd like to see added to the portfolio manager at a later date, let me know. I'm always happy to build things out. So thank you guys for the support. Appreciate you all, and I will talk to you next time.